Or if you have another type of 240, it's more like, bro, don't tell mom, bro, don't tell mom. I know it's my second car, bro, but don't tell her. It's just the wheel. I'll get the wheel replaced, man. Just don't, whatever you do not upload that video on YouTube, man. It's not good, okay? It was one time that I ran into a street pole. One time. This car's like the Mona Lisa, bro. Just don't wreck her. All right, what's going on, guys? It's me, Alex from Fitment Industries, and in this episode of So You Want, we're talking about the car that people bought when they turned 17 because they saw Tokyo Drift, then let it sit in a garage for 2 years before declaring it a loss and selling it to someone else to do the same exact thing. It's probably one of the only cars that teach us about disappointment. And you know, if you've ever been in a relationship in high school, that'd probably be the only other time that you're taught disappointment. But today we are talking about the Japanese Lego car of the world, the Nissan 240 SX. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit the bell button so we can keep making awesome videos like this one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, look at all these educational videos you're probably not seeing right now. This guy sure doesn't race. Dude's got some fake carbon fiber parts. I know that he's covering up a crack with all these stickers everywhere. It's a good thing I know it's on Airlift Performance. I can't tell because it's completely undrivable. The Nissan 240 SX was the North American market coupe variant of the S13 and S14 chassis. When it came out, it was equipped with a KA24E from 1989 to 1990 and a KA24DE from 1991 to 1999. The difference was just a few goodies, but most notably the cams. Every single 240 SX was built in Kyushu, Kyoshu, Kaishu, Kuki, Japan. Now here in America, there were the 240 SX. In Japan was the S13, S14, the Silvia, there's the 180 SX and the 200 SX from the European market, but for the sake of my sanity today, we're rolling with the 240 SX nomenclature. In short, the first generation, the good old S13, was a pretty simple Nissan. It was naturally aspirated, came in a decent motor option, and had a typically early 90s look. Came with a 4-speed automatic, or a 5-speed manual meant that there were quite a few produced. You could see this car come in like coupes and fastbacks or even a convertible, if that's really your thing. It came with the best stock option any car in the history in the world could possibly come with. Pop-up headlights. The car will receive various updates to the motor over time, adding more valves, sport packages, LSDs, and even the Hikes 4-wheel steering if you were a lucky kid and got the golden ticket and you managed to come across one, because usually those just weren't in anything. But how was the first generation actually received? Decent. The first generation was an overall success back in the day, and for most, this was still challenging like your parents to pick up either like a domestic muscle that was loud and obnoxious, or a Japanese coupe that was nimble and maneuverable. While many thought this was a successor to the Datsun platform, it is not. Don't even think about it. Another big step that made the first generation successful was its multi-link rear suspension that truly made it feel like a sports car. In fact, a lot of people attribute the success of the first generation 240 SX in the US market to that suspension. The second generation, well, they made it better, but they removed the most important thing they possibly could. Overall, the S14 wasn't a great success. Even as they introduced more trim levels to make it more appealing to a wider audience, gave it some goodies like leather seats and ABS, more LSD and more, it still wasn't enough. It was the end of its generation that the 240 SX decided to go through puberty, and in 1997 received some minor improvements, pretty much just made it angrier. The second gen wasn't received as well out of the gate. America was finally learning that SUVs were apparently the bomb.com, and no one had time for the cute coupe sports cars that were like the Japanese market's bread and butter. During this time of America, with them always getting the short end of the stick, the international market was receiving some goodies added to the 240SX. The Silvia in Japan, for instance, won Car of the Year Japan Award. It came out with the SR20DE and DET motors, which was baller. It was getting the love it needed by Nissan to continuously improve it. It became a proper sports coupe. However, just like that child that you never liked, you just wish they would go to college and just never came back. And like Nissan did with the 240SX, they axed it in 1998. That was very dark. I don't know where I was when I said that, but apparently I was not in good headspace. The 240SX hit the American market at an opportune time. The depreciation of the vehicle had allowed people to jump in when they were... Do you hear it? Do you hear it? It's the JDM hype train! The Fast and Furious was in full swing, and the hype for tuner Japanese vehicles also skyrocketed at the time, and with it was the 240SX platform. It became an immediate go-to for the aftermarket enthusiast because of its solid foundation, decent suspension, and lightweight chassis. People like you and people like me really started to enjoy the 240SXs as they began to go back into the limelight. But where they really began to shine was the aftermarket drift scene. The 240SX was huge in the drifting scene. Plug-and-play style engine swaps, a great wheelbase, commonly produced to make finding parts even easier. It was just a dream come true. Regardless of generation, the cars began getting scooped up by anyone and everyone that thought about drifting their car. And that's when the tax came in. The reason that you spend... We'll get there. You see, there's this thing called a drift tax. It comes around every so often. Sometimes they fade away, sometimes they don't exist on cars you think they should. But there is one car that sits at the throne of that drift tax, the one that seems to just never go down. That one big kid in 5th grade that would never lose a King of the Hill. The one thing, it's just like the one that people could not give two shits about the tax scene because it is the go-to drift car. And that is the Nissan 240SX. So you want a Nissan 240SX. Neat. Here are some things that you're probably gonna wanna know before jumping into one. Most, if not all, Nissan 240SXs are absolutely overpriced, 100%. We have seen rolling shells go for $4,000. We've seen stock motors go for $5,500 with 280,000 miles. It's disgraceful. $12,000 for an SR20 swapped S13 that's met a wall just one too many times. How? The 240SX lineup features a price point that can be hard to swallow, and in our eyes, if you're gonna snag one, find a deal or just get one imported. If you're paying 12 grand plus for an already swapped modified one that has met some sort of physical thing that was not meant to move like a wall, you're probably gonna have a bad time. You see, the cars themselves were probably worked on by any Joe, Jane, Bob, or Mike that wanted it. Everyone wanted to swap them and everybody wanted to modify them, especially in the early 2000s, and that didn't change especially up to today. Therefore, most of them have had way too many like grubby little hands in the engine bay with way too much electrical tape. So if you're gonna buy one, you're actually better off starting from scratch or buying one knowing you'll have to fix all the shortcuts and the other things that the 16 owners did before you, because that's just what 240SX owners do. They buy and sell them way too often, it seems like, or they work on them and then give up, but then they just sell the whole cobbled thing to the next guy. And that can sometimes be a pain. But hot diggity dog are these fun cars to modify. They have every available modification known to man. They are not insanely priced for parts. The car can handle a beating, and because of its foundation, it's quite the little monster, and with a bit of money and time, it can pretty much do anything. The cars fit just about anything in them, but you'll find most S13s are running older SSRs, BBSs, and even more common now, Cosmis racing wheels. S14s are littered with Heritage Ibisus, RPF1s, and suspension is usually Tane and BC Racing for the most part. But the problem comes from if you can find one for you. Can you find a 240SX with all the same color body panels? Can you find one with a clean title? Can you find one with less than 8 owners? But most importantly, can you find one without spending more than $10,000 on a 20-year-old car? That is the tricky part. And the 240SXs sit in a very unique spot because they are an incredible car to own, they're an incredible car to drive, and they're an incredible car to drift. And if you do it right, it'll probably be one of the best cars you ever own. However, sometimes starting at the beginning of that race can be a little bit of a mess because finding the right car right out of the gate, especially if you're planning on modifying one yourself, can be a little dodgy. And if you end up buying one from somebody else that managed to put it all together, don't expect it to work right away because unless you're paying around $30,000 for it, it's just probably not. So you want a 240SX? Well, we hope you still want one after this because we love them and we'd love to see more of them. And if you have one, drop it over into our gallery at fitmentindustries.com/ad. If you're looking for wheels, tires, suspension, check out fitmentindustries.com. If you guys pick up one of those, you pick up a t-shirt, helps us keep making cool videos like this. My name is Alex from Fitment Industries. Don't forget to subscribe, even though I said it 3 times, and drop a comment on what you'd like us to see talk about next. We will see you guys later. Peace.